Is the microphone working now? Hello, hello. Yep, there we go. Okay, sorry for this. So, welcome to the first part of the assetless Mario-like project. Just like it sounds, we'll be recreating a Mario game without any assets at all. And this series will then later transform into a asset Ario replica with assets, but before we do that, we'll create an assetless versions, and then for the next one, we'll base it entirely off of this code. For today, I'll only do the general setup, which is the folder structures. I'll also pre-create every block and little asset that we'll use within the Unity, which within the Unity project itself. So let's start off by creating some folders. So we'll need our prefab folder. We'll need some prefabs, scripts. We actually don't need the resources for them because we're not going to draw from the resources for anything. We'll definitely need materials. And we'll definitely need scenes like so. I think this is good enough for now. So let's start creating our objects. So our entire project is going to be set in 2D mode for a 3D game. Now, let's start off by creating a cube. So a Mario game has several tiles. The first one would be the floor. Then we would have a breakable block. And we would have the unbreakable. Now, the breakable block is what Mario usually steps on. I mean, what he can jump on top of or destroy. Whereas the unbreakable is the bottom floor. That never gets changed. Let's attach some materials to each of these so we can tell them apart. Where are we? So let's give one for a floor. Why do I keep holding floor? Breakable block. And then unbreakable block. What else do we have in the Mario game? A Mario game will also have the question mark blocks. So let's call this the question mark block. And the question mark block will then change into the unbreakable block upon colliding with it. So let's quickly go and attach each of these, give them some kind of a color. We can change to a texture in a later part, but for now we'll just keep it all as a simple color. So let's do this. And then let's add another one, which is going to be our question mark block. Now, the question mark blocks will change from one block type to another when they're hit. But of course, they'll start with the question mark block. So let's just give them some colors to be able to differentiate between each of these blocks. And then that will give us a nice start. Okay, so let's start off by setting up our floor. We'll do some level building for this section as well. So if you hold Control and D, you can create a block, and if you then, well, if you keep holding the Control key and then you move to the left, it will move exactly by a unit. How much you move by can be changed in the game settings. Of course, we don't mind what this is for now. And let's create a new empty game object, and let's call this a map. Inside the map, we will create a few game objects. First, we'll call it the floor objects, and this is where we will store each of our floor blocks, like so. Then we'll have another empty game object. We have to make sure everything's positioned at 0, and this we'll have all the breakable blocks, like so. And then let's forget about the question mark and the unbreakable blocks for now. Let's create a character. before we get into this section. Actually, let's create an object for each of these. So create empty. So this is going to be interactable blocks, and then non-interactable blocks. There we go. We can put our question mark and unbreakable into these. Now with this, we have a little structure for our blocks. Now let's create a character. So our character is going to be a capsule. Let's make sure we reset its position. We drag it up. So if we remember, Mario was the size of a block. That means we need to scale it down to about 0.5. And of course, Mario has to have an option. So this is going to be the player character. And we need to have an option to actually make the character bigger for him to grow. So if this is our, where are we? Whoopsie daisy. There we go. So if this is our character at our small version, right, then our big character should be, wait, let's put it at 2. So we should be able to go under a 1 block. But if we look at the games, and I have a quick reference here, so there's about 3 sets of Marios on the height. So that means we have control 1, control 2. So this is as high as we will have our first level, and a fully grown Mario would look something like this. Of course, the biggest problem right now is when we grow, it grows from the center. So let's create an empty game object and actually call this our player character, and drag in our other one in here and just call this a player model, and let's call it small, like so. Now let's just reset our position of our player character and then reset our entire model for now. Let's put it where it should be at position. There you go. So what do we have here? So now that we have this set up, let's remove all of the collision from our, actually we can keep this for now. Let's make it so that our character nicely positions itself as it should in its small position. There we go, like this. And then let's duplicate this and call it the large version. And now set it to 1. And of course we have to move him higher up to 0.1. And now what's going to happen is within our player controller, we will simply trigger this one of them on and off, like so, based on what we need to use at the given time. Now, finally, now that we have our characters and we have all of the types of characters, we need some more interactable objects. So let's create a new color, and let's call it an interactable. No, let's call it the, well, I guess we call them the, what were they called? The tube clock. So the tubes were the green things that would go up and down. Now let's create a tube out of a cylinder. So let's go into our 3D objects, create a cylinder. Let's again reset the position, put it up. And if I'm right, the tube should be slightly bigger than our character, like so. And then it should have like a little area at the top which expands. So let's put this, so this is going to be the cylinder base and then cylinder top. I believe the top was about two sizes of our character. So let's put our character right next to it. I'm just going to put a second one for comparison. And that means the base has to be smaller to about here, and then to top it can just ever so expand like this. There we go. And that's our entire the green thing done. Let's give a color to our character. Let's actually make it red because this is what a Mario would be like. And then our unbreakable block is just going to be called something else. So unbreakable, let's call it the player character. So if this is breakable, unbreakable should be something slightly different. Unbreak. Let's make it actually really dark, like so. Okay, so with this we technically have everything that's required for the basic setup of the character. There we go. What else was there in the Mario game? Oh yeah, the game also had the little mushroom guys. So let's create some enemies, and then with this we'll have the basic setup done, and we can make the character move between the game and maybe make the get some of the objects to work as well. So let's think about it. So for our enemy, I think the simplest way to do it would be just to create the same thing as our little character model. So let's create a 3D object, and it's going to be a capsule. Of course, make it twice as small, like so. Actually, I feel like adding a simple texture to this project anyway. So let's go here, and let's go quickly into Paint, so it's easier to prototype, and let's create a 64 by 64 square. And then let's grab a text component across the entire canvas. Let's make it, and then let's just put a question mark, but make it as big as we possibly can. Is there a better font? Oh, there's actually a lot of fonts. As big as too big. I think this will do. No, my question is, why is it cutting it? Question mark. Okay, this is so weird. I guess this is as big as we can go. But why is it hiding it on this but not hiding it on the other one? It's like it has to be in the middle. Paint is such a pain of a tool to use. Whatever. Nope, not gonna happen. Okay, whatever. It will do. What are we looking at? We're looking at like a slightly yellowish symbol around a very yellow background. That's, I guess, as good as it's gonna go. Oh, and this turned into a quick paint session. I kind of want to do this because all of the other sessions we go straight into programming. But I kind of feel like preparing the assets and first, and then moving into programming after the assets are done. It is just a little bit of a fresher thing as opposed to everything that we've done so far. So let's just call it the question mark block. Also, this gives me a lot of time to think about what I exactly want to do with this. So let's create a new folder and let's call it the I guess that would be just images because that's technically what it is. Okay, and let's see how that's going to look like. Where are we? So that's going to be the interactable blocks question mark block. So let's open one of these blocks up, drag this in. also it's the other way around, which is kind of weird. Oh, it's probably because I didn't do. Oh, why is it? You know what? It doesn't really matter. Just gonna 180 spin the block. Same result. Now let's have a look at this material now that we've just attached, because now this material actually, yeah. So we have this attached here. It looks so bad. Okay, it doesn't matter, to be honest. It does the job. Let's try to do some other blocks. So let's go back to our friendly, trusty paint. And what I'll do is, how do the blocks look like? Actually, this is all right. Okay, for that one. Not gonna lie, I'm pretty good at paint. That's a thing. Now let's create one like this, like this, like this. Oh, terrible. How many more layers do I have to do? God damn it! If I knew this was gonna take so long, I would have done it off screen. But too late, too late. We're sticking to the idea of doing the assets. I guess this is the first time ever in the history that I'll be making assets live. So yeah, I'm just creating this like little brick. Now that I think about it, I should have changed the color first, because now if I change the color, I'll have to do each individually. Ooh. It looks actually like it's meant to look like, which is a good thing. So if I remember well, on the top they had a slightly different discoloration. So let's pick a lighter shade and just make a line at the top. One single line will do. I don't know if it's going to look any good in the actual project itself. I hope it will. Okay, like so. And then back to drawing black squares. I think we have 2 more lines to go through. Yeah, so one more here. One. And final block. Yeah, the final one's way too thick. But to be honest, they all have different thicknesses anyway. Okay, looks good enough, in my opinion. Okay, so let's save as, and this is going to be the breakable block. Now let's drag that one into our little images folder. Oh, I see I created a material straight away for the block. I actually don't want you there. Don't create your own material. Although that's going to happen again for the next one. Hello? That's so weird. Yeah, remove it. All I want to do is just attach the question mark here. There we go. Okay, now that we have this material, let's go into our breakable block and do the exact same thing here. We can actually get rid of the white color at all. No, that was actually better. There we go. And with this, so let's try to replicate what the first Minecraft level actually looks like. So I believe it would be 2 blocks to start off with. Let's move away a little bit away from our. Disable that for now. Disable that. So we'll have 2, and then at the same level, which is at 4, we shall have that guy 2. Is it 2? I suppose this should be at 0. These guys should be at 0 as well. Everything should be at 0. Yeah, and there you go. 2. There we go. So there is a 2, and then there is 2 in the middle. No, this one didn't move at all properly. Let's zero him out. 1, 2. Are they the same size? Why isn't he? Hello? Wait, they're 100% the correct size, right? Yeah. What's wrong with you, guy? Yeah, so this should be its. Is there a slight offset? Is that why? Yeah, there is a. Oh my god. Go away. Go away. There we go. 1, 2. 1, 1, 1. 1. And then we have another question mark. And then 2 more. And then we believe there would be another. So we go 1, 2, 3. And that's going to be. It's funny because they're not actually exact squares, now that I think about it, but it doesn't matter. Okay, let's go back into the painting board. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we need a light gray. That one's going to be a quick one. So it's something like this. Something like this. And then something like this. And then let's just do that. And give it that yellow color. And then save it as, and this is going to be our floor block. And as you can see, the everything is starting to come to light with this kind of a. No, that orange was actually better. It actually doesn't look as well good as the other textures, but for prototyping, nothing has to look amazing as long as it works, more or less. So what's important is with how we render the camera, that we will only see the top tiles of the floor. So let's move the camera. So the camera, firstly, I'm just going to change the camera to orthographic. Maybe perspective is also good. Actually, let's have a look. So this is what it looks like in, and this is what it looks like in perspective. The perspective does give it that little bit of a interesting feel to it, but let's keep it orthographic for now. So for the camera, we want to have a little bit of the floor, not too much. I guess we can keep it at 4, keep everything at full numbers, like so. And that means that our floors have to be duplicated. Oh, there's a 1 block floor that's not in the floors. So that means we need to duplicate the floor down 1. And now if we select every single block piece, we can move them out. Technically speaking, I think I can make all of the floor from a single block by removing all of the blocks here and just making the texture tile. And that will save us some work. Let's give this a try. So if we go here, well, actually, let's start off by expanding our. Of course, this happens, right? This looks pretty ugly, but I'm 100% sure there is a way to tile the image. Although I don't remember how. Tiling. How do I tile an image? Oh, would it be this? So 64 by 64. No. Hey, but is it because our image is not properly set up? What if I change it to multiple? No. Hmm. I mean, if it doesn't work, I'll just go back to what we were doing because I don't want to mess around with it. Or instead of having this here, I put the normal map in here and that should tell it. Nope, it doesn't. Never mind. Yeah, let's just do the first attempt. I really don't want to spend too much time on something like this, so let's go back. Cancel. Cancel. Wait, actually, can I keep going back? It should give me back all of the... Yeah, apply. Give me back all of the blocks I've lost. Never what I want to do. Actually, let's select every single... I have too many now. Yep. So let's create some on this side, some on this side. There we go. The only benefit to having it separate is that in Mario there would be holes on the map. So we can actually do those holes. Now that I think about it, for the cylinder base, we are actually better off separating it because, I mean, what I mean by that is making an object itself. So let's call it the cylinder tower. And then rather than this being a parent of the other ones, do it the other way around. Now, the reason why I prefer to have it like this over the other approach, actually, one other thing that we'll have to do is just change the colliders, but we'll probably change everything to 2D colliders anyway. And the reason why I wanted to do it this way is because now we can adjust how big everything is without having this move alongside it every time. Okay, so we have a basic structure of a map. The camera is covering this up. We do need some kind of I guess we need to go back into paint basically. Oh yeah, we also needed to do one more other block, which is our what happens if we interact block basically. And so that's the already interactable, and I will do it like this. I have an idea in my head. And then I need a very dark, there you go, like this, and we're just gonna set that, and we're gonna call it unbreakable block. Now, other levels in Mario have the blue versions of it, but we are not gonna worry about that. We'll make every single. Where are we? Can get rid of that now from my desktop. And if we go into our unbreakable block, look for the unbreakable material, assign this in here. Let's have a look at the block and see what it looks like. It looks like this. Maybe make it lighter. A little bit like this. There we go. Let's get rid of that one for now. Of course, we will need some tags for our blocks as well to prepare for later. So let's just add a breakable block. Let's add a unbreakable block. Let's add a interactable block. Now the interactable block can be probably used for two things, or maybe not. Well, depending on how we choose to program it at the end of the day. And then, do we have an enemies? No, we don't. So let's add an enemy as well. Tag. Like this. With this, we have that basic setup here. And let's try to create our very first level out of everything that we have. So let's create a mushroom mushroom, a wall here, wall here. Let me just select some floors and duplicate them a little bit more. Now, that being said, this is not going to be a one-to-one replica of the actual game level. I have no idea what it looks like. Why is it off? This is so weird because somewhere along the line we started shifting. It's from here on. So all of these guys, you guys are wrong for some reason. No, go away. And that's fine now. Well, let's remove that guy and make this little hole in here. Okay, that will be good enough. This will be our entire level, I guess. Let's start populating the level with some things. So the character will start about here, and there is no way out behind us. So let's use our unbreakable blocks for now. Place them behind a character like this. One. So I guess this somewhere along this line we'll start the entire game. Now I know I'm pressing everything, but what I really should have done is made everything a prefab. And this will come and bite me in a minute. So let's go into prefabs and let's actually prefab everything. Now the reason why I'm prefabbing this is so that if I change one of them, every single one of them will change, because I'm already playing with making levels, but I haven't prefabbed anything. So let's actually delete all of those and start prefabbing things first. But the floor doesn't have to be prefabbed because there is no other change that will happen with the floor, but the other blocks will be. 1, 2, if it was like this. And these guys will also have to be prefabbed, although for now let's leave them. We'll work on that in a later part. So here we'll have an enemy just walking through. I will force this to be a player encounter with the enemy. We can have like a higher level. And then could do something like this here. No. And then do, where are the unbreakable blocks? Let's get one of the unbreakables here. And actually one thing that doesn't make kind of a sense here is that these guys, what? No, how come you are on? There you go, better. So I'm just going to create a little step. And then to accompany that step, we're going to have one of our cylinder towers exactly here. So you kind of either fall or you make the jump. This bit can be removed entirely. And I'm just going to add a little bit more here. Let's add some question mark blocks. Maybe one here. And then it can just go all the way to the back. And then I guess here we can, where are we? This is a little nice structure. So if I remember well, for the actual game, you had like this pyramid that you would jump on, and then you would just fall down towards the end. So that'll be our first level that we, I guess, inspired to play through. And then we need to have our little castle. So I guess we need a little bit more of these guys here. So the flag would be about here. And then the rest would be the castle. There we go, like this. Also, one thing that every block has is currently they're casting shadows. I don't really want them to cast shadows, so I'll just turn casting shadows off on every single block that we have a prefab of. There's no need for them to cast shadows. How does it actually? It actually looks better with shadows, right? Whatever. Now let's create a flag as our final object. And with this, we have our level complete. How do we make a flag? Let's get rid of all of this, all of this, all of this, all of this, all of this. We have sphere, capsule. No, not capsule. Let's make this a cylinder. There we go. So there is going to be two parts to the flag. So we're going to have the pole. It should be way smaller than this, 0.2, 0.2. And the pole is going to go all the way up to, well, whatever, like this, I guess. Maybe low. Yeah, that's way too big. Let's make an A. So there you go. Let's create two new materials. One is going to be the flagpole, and that's going to be some kind of a gray color. I know it's not very visible right now, but it will look better. And then we need a flag itself. So let's call it a flag. Of course, we need to make it so it's the same width. Actually, yep, looks good like this, in my opinion. And now let's add the flag pole. I mean the actual flag itself. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create an empty game object inside of this, so we actually have some kind of a controller as well. So this is going to be our flag object. It's going to be the flagpole, and then finally we need our flag object, which is going to be, I presume, a cube. Okay, let's create that cube somewhere else, and then drag it into it. Let's go into game scene. No, scene. What? Cube. Let's just move it around. Give it a flag. Make the flag some standout color that we're not using so far, so let's make it blue. Let's make it like this and call it a flag. So what's going to happen here is when we interact with it, it's just going to go down to the floor in a very simple way. So our flag will just have to have a start and the end point. Now let's make some preparation for the code. So the classes that we will need is a player, I guess, controller, or player movement. Let's call it player controller. So we'll need a player controller. We will need a flag controller. Hello. We will need enemy controller. What else do we have? So we can move our enemies, we can move our players, we can, the flag's going to move up and down. We need a game manager to hold of our player states. What else would we need? We need a block interaction. So this is something that will handle our block states. Actually, since we can fall, we need something that will control the falling. So we will need a out of bounds control. And while we're at it, we can actually create our out of bounds object. So let's create a empty game object. Well, no, and actually let's create an object that we can see so we can tell where our out of bounds is. And what's going to happen is I will just stretch this object out across this area. Let's call it out of bounds. And let's create an icon for this. I think it will be very nice if we can tell what's happening. So for the out of bounds, I will create a very simple cube. And I'll put a cross across the middle. There you go. Let's call this out of bounds. This is not something a user will ever see, but we will. And that will help us determine what's exactly happening, which I think is good to know. There you go. So we get a little box like this, so we know that, well, this is where you can fall out of the map, and there is going to be some kind of a collision that will check against us falling out. We probably want this inside our map and as another category block. So let's create an empty game object, and let's call it the out of bounds of blocks. And we'll drag both of our out of bounds into these ones, with the second one where it should be. Now, these blocks, as you see, will never be visible, but we know that they're there, and this is when they will signal to the game that, well, something wrong has happened. Now that we have these, I'm just going to copy these unbreakable blocks from this side, and I'll make a little pyramid-like castle, just for the sake of visuals. Let's remove these guys. So it actually looks like the Mario level. Yeah, so I guess I'm just going to make a little temple. I kind of feel like putting all of these into a one game object later so we can reuse it whenever we want. Okay, there we go. So where are these blocks? At the top. So what I'll probably do is get down, because we need our little door. No, come on. 1, 2, that means on the third one here is going to be a block. Everything else can be covered up. There we go. Yeah, by far the most boring thing I've done on stream. It's a necessary evil. So this is what every level that I'll make in the future off screen is gonna probably be built at. There's quicker ways of doing it. I could program a tool which will create a level for me, and that's actually something I would recommend doing if you plan on making um, a full game, because it will save you a lot of time and effort. But since we're only doing this for 1 or 2 levels, there's no point. It will take longer. So what you have to remember is when you make a programming tool that is used for building levels and whatnot, you have to take into consideration, like, what will take longer. Will it take longer for me to program the tool? Where are we? Unpack. will it take me longer to create the tool, or will it take me longer to make the level by hand? Because if it takes you longer to create the tool, then there's no point to create it. It's as simple as that. Okay. Wait, where did we start doing the black box? There we go. Okay, with this we have a fully done level, which we will need to make work in the next session. I believe the only thing left is a skybox, which we can make. So let's create a quick skybox. Let's use an actual size. So let's use 960 by, no, is it 980? I think it was. I'm pretty sure it's not. Okay, so let's have a look at that picture one more time for my reference. Where are we? Did I close it? No. So what they have is like, they have like this occasional hill, a little bit of bush, and everything else is blue. I think they also have clouds from time to time as well. So let's just add a little bit of a thing. Let's add some, I guess, bushes. Enough. It has to be longer, doesn't it? Let's add a little something here. I actually don't know what it's going to look like. I'm just kind of hoping for something to look okay. But whatever it's going to look like, we're keeping it. That's one promise I can make. I'm too lazy to change. And let's add some clouds at the top. Is there a cloud there? Oh, there is even a cloud I can make without making a cloud. So let's put some of these. It's actually a speech bubble we are using as a cloud. It's funny. Can't have them clip. Go back. Oh, I still have the other one open. Yeah, let's color them in. Color them in. Color. Okay. Now with this done, let's create some more shapes and patterns somewhere else. There we go. And create one more, which is a green one. Sure. Something like this will do, I guess. Give it green. Okay, let's save this as, and this is going to be our skybox. Close this. Go into our images. Put our skybox in. Remove these guys out. Okay, so skyboxes are done by going into Windows, rendering, lightning settings, and where it says skybox, we drag in the one we want. Of course, before we do that, we have to create a material. So let's create a material, call it skybox, and then we want to attach our, well, we want to change this to a skybox property. I don't know which one we're looking at just yet, so bear with me for now. So let's attach our skybox into our skybox. And what happens if we put this for the front? It doesn't look as good as I wanted it to. Oh, it's actually alright. Yeah, we're just gonna leave it as this. It looks alright. So what's gonna actually happen is, if we look at the camera, Skybox is not going to run itself because what we really want it to be is for it to be a parallax. What's it called? A parallax something. Let's go into paint. Do we want to make a parallax scrolling background or do we want to keep as this? Let's make a parallax scrolling background. That means that our skybox is just going to be this. Save as, call it skybox 2. We're going to leave this in system for now. I'm not going to bother with doing the parallax part anytime soon. Okay, let's go. Let's leave it as that. And this is where we can finish the first part. So for next part, we'll actually start coding all of that in so we can play this level from start to finish. But yeah, this is it for our day one. It is a nice setup. We have everything ready. You just need to populate it. I think the series will take maximum of 3 to 4 parts, and then it's going to be done. But yeah, see you on Wednesday for next part of this series. Whereas tomorrow we are coming back with our the pathfinding game, and maybe later today I'll do the Pokemon like as well, part 5. But until then,